My name's Sam, a Cambridge economics student, and throughout my time studying for my GCSEs, A-levels and university exams, I've been able to pick up the tips and tricks which have enabled me to stay motivated throughout. The first tip is to break your studying down into smaller steps. A lot of the time, a lack of motivation to study is rooted in this overwhelming feeling we get at the mere thought of studying. And a lot of the time, this is because the idea of studying for our big exams, our GCSEs, A-levels, university exams, whatever they may be for you, is this really big, intimidating thing. So it can be useful to break down the task of studying for these big, intimidating exams into smaller, more manageable tasks. For those of you who are really organised, take some time and decompose your entire exams. Break the exams down into their subjects, and then the topics, and then the subtopics from there. This way, it makes the whole process of studying so much more manageable, as you've decomposed these big scary things into something which is so much more manageable that you can actually do and take action on a day-by-day basis. By doing this decomposition and breaking these exams down into manageable tasks, it means that the task of going to study isn't this massive thing of studying for these massive exams. Instead, it's doing a small, actionable task. And this process of breaking your exams down into something which is much less intimidating and much more manageable could be the difference between you staying on your phone on the couch or getting up and starting to study. The second thing which can really help with motivation is having a goal. Whether it be studying or exercising or whatever, a lot of the time we lack motivation to do said thing because we don't have a goal or something to work towards for that specific thing. So by setting a goal, it can actually provide a reason to study, which could be that extra smidge of motivation which enables you to study where otherwise you wouldn't have. Now, there are two different schools of thought in relation to academic goal setting. The first option is to set an outcome-based goal. For example, I want a grade 9 or an A star or a first, etc. The second option is to set an input-based goal, e.g. I want to study for 3 hours a day or 20 hours a week, etc. For me personally, I've always used the first option, the outcome-based goal, and that's because I found it much more motivating to work towards a specific grade or a specific result. But I understand that outcome-based goals can be scary, as you don't have total control of what the outcome may be, and thus it could act more as a source of fear rather than a source of motivation. And if you think that goal setting can help you in motivation, great, go ahead with it. But don't think just because you set a specific goal that that goal can't be changed. And importantly, don't use the fact your goal may change in the future as an excuse not to set a goal in the first place. Because, as the saying goes, it's much easier to steer a moving ship than a stationary one. The third thing which can help for motivation to study is by changing your mindset from a pessimistic one to an optimistic one. It could in fact be the case that your mindset is the limiting factor which is preventing you from picking up that pen and starting to study. A lot of the time as students, if we're lacking in a routine or we haven't done that much work over the past few weeks, we can fall into a pessimistic mindset. Essentially, we may begin to get thoughts such as, oh, it's too close to the exams now, oh, it's too late to start, I haven't started early enough, I may as well not try. And these are thoughts that I have definitely experienced at certain points throughout my academic career. But a saying I find really useful when I feel myself start having these thoughts is as follows. The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, but the second best time is now. Essentially, all this saying is communicating is there's no point living in the past. Yes, the best time to plant a tree would have been 10 years ago, and the best time for you to have started studying would have been at the start of the academic year. You can't change the past, all you can change is the future, so given the situation, the best time to start studying is now. So maybe if you're behind where you wanted to be, or you haven't started as early as you would have in an ideal world, don't let that hold you back, start now. And the fourth thing, which can be really useful to help you study and get motivation to study, is by scheduling your studying. Essentially, it can be hard to get motivation to do something if that thing isn't a part of your normal everyday life. But the flip side to that is most people don't need motivation to do things that are part of their daily lives. So if you can schedule studying into your daily life and make it part of the norm, hopefully it will become much easier to do that studying. And an easy-ish way to start to incorporate studying into your daily life is by using habit stacking. All habit stacking is where you stack habits on top of each other, i.e. do them consecutively, to make sure you actually do the habits. So maybe you can have it that when you come in from school or college, your routine is have a bite to eat, do a bit of exercise, play with the dog, and then you study for 30 minutes. And if this is a routine you can commit yourself to doing every day, it's much easier to do that 30 minutes of studying, as it's just a natural progression of what you already do. Obviously, that's just an example, you will adapt this to whatever your daily routine currently holds. But by making studying a part of your schedule, it can really help with that motivation, as studying now just becomes the norm. A lot of the time, motivation isn't actually a limiting factor. The limiting factor is the activation energy needed to get started with studying. And that's why I try and recommend the principle of just do it. Oftentimes, when you're sat on that sofa on your phone, you know you should be studying. But there's a lot of energy taken to get up, go upstairs and open those books and actually begin. A useful technique to use could be counting down from 3, 2, 1 in your brain and then moving. When you actually get started studying, it's not that high energy of a process, but there's a lot of energy in the process of getting started. However, if you can get a system which just gets you started studying, the rest of the studying should take care of itself. And following on from this, the more you study, the easier it is to study. And in those first 5 minutes, that's when you're most likely to get distracted and get away from your studying. And this is because in those first 5 minutes, you're not really in the right headspace yet, you're not in the right mindset, so you can get distracted by other things around you. So it's important to try and clear your workspace of any distractions, maybe put your phone away, etc. There it is, those are the 5 tips and tricks which will hopefully help you find the motivation to study. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them down below, and I'll see you next week.